Mitt Romney, you might remember him. He popped up yesterday in New Hampshire. He says this is just a simple endorsement of a good friend, Scott Brown. Listen, Mitt Romney endorsing his former Massachusetts colleague, now a New Hampshire resident.
I know that the president is not on the ballot this November, but the people of New Hampshire have a chance to vote on what they think about the president's agenda. And they'll do that by saying what they will about the president's #1 supporter, Jeanne Shaheen.
So help me, ladies. Mitt Romney there looks tanned, rested, and ready, right? He says this is simple. Scott Brown's a good friend from Massachusetts. Scott Brown served in the legislature when Romney was governor. Now he's running for Senate in New Hampshire. Romney's very popular in New Hampshire, trying to help him out. But there was a new poll out yesterday that says some people have buyer's remorse. And Spencer Zwick, who's one of Romney's big fundraisers, saying on the record, I think some of these donors don't want to take no for an answer. They want Romney to run a third time. When his own people are saying on the record, well, maybe he should do this again, but the governor says no, 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 no. Who are we to believe?
I believe the governor, and I think that the second that the governor started saying, well, maybe, 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 then I think a lot of these donors would start saying, no, not so much. I mean, I think there's some level of post-2012 therapy, #1, for people who supported him. I think that there are a lot of actual Romney people, Spencer Zwick is one of them, who love him, believe in him, and think he should have won. But I do not think there is a big cry from donors overall to have him fill what is ultimately a void right now among the establishment side.
And how about voters?
Well, there is a bit of that among voters. That poll you're talking about, where a plurality of voters say that we'd be better off if Romney had won the election. But your ex always looks better after the breakup, even if you're the one who dumped them. And I think, what a difference a couple of years makes, right? Obviously, things not going very well for Obama right now, so people think about what might have been. But I think Romney is smart enough to realize that that's a dynamic. He's actually even used the dating metaphor. And he also, but I think it's also a sign of how successfully Romney has rehabilitated himself. He's been very careful about the way he's reemerged, becoming sort of an elder statesman for the party. His endorsements in Republican primaries this year have been very successful. I believe they have all won their primaries. So he's clearly done a very good job of positioning himself after a loss where a lot of people blamed him in very personal terms. He's really come back within the Republican Party.